Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to study the seventh chapter of our English course book, Building a New State, written by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. First, we'll study about our author, APJ Abdul Kalam. Abdul Kalam was born in the year 1931 and he died in the year 2015. His full name was Abul Pakir Janaluddin Abdul Kalam. He was the 11th President of India from 2002 to 2007. He is widely referred as the People's President. He was honored with Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, and Bharat Ratna. Some of his famous works are Wings of Fire, India 2020, Ignited Minds, and Indomitable Spirit. This book, Building a New State, is a chapter taken from his book Ignited Minds. So now let's move on to the chapter. The renowned physicist and former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, describes his own experiences and India's challenges in this chapter. I began this book with my travel to Jharkhand state in the month of September 2001. My purpose on the visit was to work out a developmental program in this area of herbs, forest productions, and other natural resources. After meeting the Chief Minister Babulai Marandi, the Minister for Science and Technology, Shamre Singh, and other concerned officials. Okay, so Abdul Kalam started writing this book, Ignited Minds, with his travel to Jharkhand state. He traveled over there in the month of September 2001, and he traveled here there to look after for the development program of that area development of that area related to herbs, forest products, and various other natural resources. He had a meeting with the chief minister of the then chief minister of the Jharkhand state, the Babulai Marandi, the minister of science and technology, Shamre Singh, and other concerned officials, other people who were concerned to the matter. When I landed at Ranchi, a group of boys and girls greeted me with lots of flowers. I was quite moved by their regard for a simple scientist and their trust in his dreams. Okay, so when Abdul Kalam reached Ranchi, a few boys and girls greeted him, welcomed him with lots of flowers, and he was very much emotionally moved, and he felt very happy by their gesture, and he was very happy to see their behavior towards him or attitude towards them, and he was too quite moved by their behavior and gesture, and he felt very happy on their actions. I recalled my earlier visit to the hill region about 75 kilometers away from Ranchi. As I met the people of hill region, young and old, in the village complex, sitting like them on the ground, one thing was clear to me: my presence was ordained. Okay, so this time when Abdul Kalam visited Jharkhand, he recalls his previous visit to a village in Jharkhand, which was 75 kilometers away from Ranchi. So when he met the people of that region, of that hilly region, there were young and old people in the village. They were sitting like them on the ground, and Abdul Kalam sat like with them in the ground itself, and it was very clear to him when he sat between all the village people. It was very clear to him that all the people have been officially ordered or will has been informed previously about the presence of Abdul Kalam between them. The components for development were all there: a fertile area with good rainfall, uh, the tall trees and rich vegetation, and people who are willing to work hard. So, recalling his previous visit to a village near Ranchi, Abdul Kalam says that all the things which were required for development in that village was all present there. What are the things which were required? Are things which were required were a fertile area with a good rainfall. It had a fertile area with a good rainfall. The second things were tall trees and very rich vegetation, rich fertile land. And the third thing was people who were willing to work hard, people who are willing to do hard work. Their faces were lit up with happiness so pure it is rarely seen anymore in the city, at least. Okay, how their bodies look tired, showing signs of excess work for a bare livelihood. Now, when Abdul Kalam discussed his plans with all the village people of that villagers of that village, so their faces were brightened up with happiness, and it was happiness which was a very rare thing to see in the cities, as cities people lose such kind of happiness in their lives. However, the bodies of these villagers were looking tired, and the body or the posture of their body or physically, they showed signs of excessive work for a very little amount of money. On this visit, we made some headway in drawing up a viable plan for developing a herbal drug industry in the state. Okay, so now coming back to this visit, to the present visit to the Jharkhand state, Kalam says that he had made some progress. He had made up a very good plan for developing the herbal drug industry in this state, in the Jharkhand state. Our purpose was that the drugs be manufactured within the state itself so as to provide increase income from the to the state from value addition and also boost industry there. Okay, now basically what happened, that Jharkhand was rich in various types of minerals and herbs and all those things. So basically they used to export these things to some other states or some other country, and the other country used to generate income from their export. So basically Kalam wanted that the drugs, basically drugs are medicines. Okay, drugs should be manufactured with the all the herbs. Instead of exporting them, they should be used to manufacture drugs in the state itself by by doing value education to the product. Value addition means increasing the quality of the product by refining the product more. Okay, and it also, if they will make the products over there, the herbal products, herbal drugs over there, it will also provide income to the people living over there, and it will also help in the industrial development of Jharkhand state. This was a new experiment for the state and for us, but it offered tremendous scope. So this type of experiment was very new for the state and the people, and also for Kalam and all the concerned official, but it had a lot of scope. This experiment had a lot of scope, as it will increase their income and also make Jharkhand a very developed state. After the meeting, we started for Bokaro, the steel city. The weather was cloudy and we wondered if the flight would be cancelled. A Pawn Hans helicopter had been hired by the state government. Okay. Now after the meeting with the concerned official, now it was time for Kalam to go to Bokaro. Bokaro is referred as the steel city. So the weather at that time was cloudy, and Kalam thought that whether it would be possible to take a flight during in this such kind of weather. So the state government hired a Pawan Hans helicopter. Pawan Hans helicopter. I asked the pilot whether we could fly in this weather. All smiles. The pilot promised me a beautiful flight, and so the helicopter took off with myself and two other passengers. So Kalam asked the pilot that whether they could fly in this kind of weather condition, and the pilot, by smiling, said that he will promised Kalam that it would be a beautiful flight, and promising Kalam this, the helicopter took off with Kalam and remaining two other passengers. I have often flown in a helicopter but did find the weather particularly rough on this occasion. Okay, so Kalam further says that he has often flown in a helicopter. He have often taken helicopter rides, but this helicopter ride from Jharkhand to Bokaro was pretty rough. However, the pilot was skillful, and I even congratulated him at one point for keeping the flight smooth in spite of the turbulence. Okay. So the pilot who was riding the helicopter was quite skillful. He was very much good in his job, and even Kalam congratulated him for doing such a good job, even though the weather was not favorable, and even though the pilot faced a bit turbulences. Turbulences means irregular motion of air due to currents or the disturbance in the air movement, you can say. Okay, so even though the pilot faced a lot of turbulence while flying his helicopter, so still he managed to give the helicopter to move smoothly. So that's why Kalam congratulated the pilot. It was a marvelous experience as we flew over vast stretches of forest and hills and streams. I wondered whether this precious natural wealth could be conserved from mindless destruction for short-term business gains. With such thoughts in my mind, I noticed that we had started descending. Okay, so as Kalam was flying on his way to Bokaro, on the way he saw there was a vast stretch of forest, hills, and stream. There were lots of forest over there. There were lots of hills and streams, and he was always, while looking at all of those things, he wondered that how he could save this precious natural wealth, so that he could save this natural wealth from destruction for short-term business gains. We can see that in a short-term business gains, here Kalam refers to that some people build short-term business for like furniture business and all those, and they destroy all the natural resources. So Kalam was in the of the thinking that he want to conserve these natural resources so that he could save it from destruction for short-term gains. With such thoughts in my mind, I noticed that we had started descending. So while he was thinking all of this, he noticed that the helicopter was descending. Descending means moving downwards. Suddenly, I found the two pilots in agitated discussion. I became alert myself. Looking down, I could see a large number of cars and peoples everywhere. Suddenly, he saw that the two pilots over there were in a very heated discussion, and he himself became alert as he understood that something wrong was going on. And as he looked down, he could see a large number of cars and peoples were standing everywhere. Then the crash. The helicopter hit the ground with a shattering sound. Broken parts flew around us, and all I could see fire engine rush towards her. Then all of a sudden, a crash of the helicopter in which Kalam was flying happened. Okay, and the helicopter hit the ground with a shattering sound, and the broken parts of the helicopter flew all around them. And what he could see the next minute, that the fire engines were rushing towards Kalam and the remaining people in the helicopter. I simply got out of the helicopter and had hit the ground as a dead weight. I fortunately the engine failed while we were quite close to the ground. Okay, so he simply got out of the helicopter as the helicopter has hit the ground and had shattered in the ground, basically. Okay, fell and shattered in the ground. Fortunately, so Kalam further says that it was very good that the engine of the helicopter failed when it was quite close to the ground. If it would have failed while it was in the sky, then it would be a very different scenario. Had it failed moments earlier, we could have perished under the impacts of the free fall. Okay, same thing he is saying, that if the engine would have failed a bit earlier, anything could have been happen. The pilots were in a state of shock and looked at me helplessly. I held their hands and thanked them. Okay, now the pilots were in a bit of shock, and they looked at Kalam very helplessly and feeling sorry because of them, Kalam also suffered. But Kalam, being the man he is, he took their hands and hold them, and he also thanked them. I said sometimes it happens with flying machines, and as pilots they have to face it with courage. And Kalam said to them that sometimes it happens that such kinds of incidents happens with flying machine, and as pilots you should face it with courage. So these were the words of Kalam to the pilots. I had to address the Chinmay Vidyalaya students, and they would all be waiting. So we rushed to the school, leaving behind the crash and the shock. Now, after reaching Bokaro, Kalam was going to meet the Chinmay Vidyalaya students, as they all have been waiting over there. So, leaving all that what had happened over there, he rushed to the school, leaving behind the crash and the shock. The school's principal, Krishna Swami, received me, and the students showered rose petals as I walked to the dais through the auditorium. Okay. Now the school's principal, who was the principal of the school, Krishna Swami, he received Kalam, and when Kalam entered the campus, the students showered rose petals over Kalam, and he walked to the dais. Dais is you can see here, like this portion is called as the dais, okay, where one stand and speak. Okay. So as he looked diced through the auditorium, the student showered rose petals over Kalam as he was moving towards the dais through the auditorium. News of the crash had preceded my arrival. The children sat in pin drop silence. So before even Kalam reached the school, the news of the crash reached the school, and the children were sitting in pin drop silence over there. To ease the tension, I told the young gathering. So as Kalam understood that the children were in a bit tense mood as they had received the news of the crash of the helicopter, so to lighten down that situation, the Kalam told the young students over there, friends, when I was travelling from Ranchi to here, I admired God's great gift to the state, under the ground and above it. Okay, he said that, friends, students, basically Kalam used to denote students as friends. Okay, so he said that friends, when I was traveling from Ranchi to here, first he was in Ranchi, then he took a flight from Ranchi to Bokaro. Yes, that we have studied previously in the chapter. Okay, he took a helicopter from Ranchi to Bokaro, and he said that as I was traveling from Ranchi to Bokaro, I admired the God's great gift to the state. He, as I told you all earlier, that he was looking at the precious natural wealth, the vast stretches of forest, hills, and streams. So he's saying over here that while I was traveling from Ranchi to Bokaro, I admired the God's great gift to the state, all the minerals and forest, hills, and streams under the ground and above it. I was admiring all the gifts which God has given to this state, which are under the ground and above the ground. You have minerals in abundance. Then he says that your state has minerals in abundance, which is under the ground. The rich soil of the Jharkhand plains can have bountiful crops. When I was flying over the lovely forest and the valleys and the hills, the thought of the wealth they hold in terms of forest and herbal product was very reassuring. Okay. So the rich soil, the Kalam said that the rich soil of Jharkhand, the soil of Jharkhand state is very rich. He says to addresses the student that the soil of Jharkhand can have very good crops. And when I was flying over the lovely forests and the valleys and hills, the thought of the wealth they hold in terms of forest and herbal products was very reassuring. So Kalam further says that when he was flying in the helicopter over the lovely forest and the valleys and the hills, and when he thought about the wealth this valley, forest, and hills holds among them, and they hold in the form the wealth they hold in the form of forest and herbal products was very reassuring, means very satisfying. On the ground, I saw a fully operational steel plant. Now, what I see in front of me and what the new state is famous for, it's industrial people. Now, Kalam further says that on the ground, I saw a fully operational steel plant. We know in Bokaro there is a very famous steel plant, isn't it? So, he says that on the ground, I have seen a fully working steel plant, and now what I am seeing in front of me is the new and what the new state is famous for, it's industrial people. And whatever I am, you my students, what I am seeing in front of you are the industrious people. I want you to become the future industrious people of this state. So this state has all the wealth needed. So basically this state, Jharkhand state, has all the wealth needed for its development. It is a land waiting for transformation to occur. Okay, so the land of Jharkhand is waiting for its transformation. It is waiting for its change. I see in the future villages that will be provided with urban facilities. So further he says that in the future I see the Jharkhand state of the villages in the Jharkhand state to be provided with urban facilities. Urban means basically the city facilities. Okay, I see in the future that the village of the Jharkhand will be provided with the city facilities.